Okay, so welcome everyone to Building Mathematic Conversations with Your Children, Navigating the New Elementary Math Curriculum. We are honestly delighted to spend some time with you this morning on this Sunday morning, very autumnal today. My name is Mahfouza Rahman, and I am the Acting Coordinator for Mathematics, Science, STEM, and Robotics here in the TDSB. Over to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Mahfouza. My name is Lisa Rossiter-Thornton, and I am a K-12 mathematics coach with the TDSB.
All right.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the captioning before everybody came on, and so we do have it set up. We're happy to have that set up today. You'll find it on your Zoom bar if you did want to activate that. So when we are speaking, you can see us, the captioning of the words we're saying below. And also too, we ask that you keep your microphones muted for the time being, but we will invite, there'll be times throughout the presentation that we'll invite you to share via microphone or chat, just so that we can pick up the captioning as well, and so we limit the background noise a bit. Yes.
Also, interpretation is available, also found on your Zoom toolbar, should you need interpretation in Mandarin. So,
thank you, Mahfouza.
No problem. All right, folks. So let's take a moment to acknowledge whose lands we're on. We acknowledge we're hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. As a treaty person, I do my best to understand and learn more about what my responsibilities are to this land and as a treaty person, and I hope and encourage that you will do the same.
Thank you, Mahfouza. So our focus this morning is really two pieces. We want to really point out too that we have our new math curriculum. So we're now in our second year of implementation. So in this session, we will take a look at the important changes to the new math curriculum. We will highlight these changes, and also too, what we're going to do is throughout the presentation, do problems together. And really this is so that we can develop math conversations together, and then you can take this away and do this at home with your children. At the very end, we have resources that you can use right away, and we'll be speaking to that towards the end of the presentation. So welcome.
Let's dive right in. So here is actually a screenshot from the Ontario government's site. This is a new, so this new curriculum was informed by the results of the Ontario's 2018 public consultation with parents, educators, and other stakeholders about areas of focus that would help improve student achievement, specifically in mathematics. The curriculum has also been informed by extensive research, which was led by Dr. Christine, I apologize if I say the last name wrong, Sertanem. Did I get it? Sertanem, the Vice Dean of Research and Professional Development and a full professor of mathematic education at the Faculty of Education at Ottawa University, with input from academics and educational experts in the area of math learning. So to understand the current approach to math teaching, we've researched trends in high achieving regions and reviewed best practices in math education. So we continue to work with leaders, researchers, and teachers in math education to ensure that the new curriculum is relevant and meets Ontario's needs.
So absolutely, we are the biggest board in North America, and so it really is important for us to stay, in contact with researchers in the ministry. So the things that we are paying attention to really are some of the key changes that have happened in this curriculum, but also just really good quality math education. So what you may or may not know is that the structure has changed. Here's a list you can see on the screen of all of the pieces and areas, and I'm going to that have changed in the curriculum for elementary mathematics. Now, The last one was in 2005, and the current one now is 2020. So in 2005, interestingly enough, there was different expectations for Francophone and Anglophone, but now that's all consolidated. So across Ontario, both students that are studying in Francophone boards and Anglophone boards, they're getting the same experiences in math education. One of the huge things too is that we needed to update examples for students. So you'll notice that there is a lot of problem solving that maybe you see is coming home and whatnot, but really it's now been updated to the real life examples that help students connect to everyday life in math. Just some quick examples like infographics, creating budgets, e-transfers, learning to code. So that's very exciting as educators and for students and families in Ontario, that we're really kind of launching now into how we're looking at math, and that it's just so embedded in every day, and how relevant that is for us and for students. The other piece is number facts. So now there is more of a focus on fundamental math concepts, such as learning multiplication. And this is really embedded in problem solving as well. And that's really to, connect with mental math. And we'll do some examples a little later. With spatial sense, what has changed is that it's actually measurement and geometry together, and how they really are so nicely situated in terms of their the deep concepts and big ideas and themes that they share. And so students will understand basic number concepts, patterning, and geometric concepts now in spatial sense, which is really, really fantastic. So connecting measurement and geometry. So one of the other highlights is fractions, and we're going to talk about fractions because this is really, when we think about number sense enumeration and all the different numbers we can look at our lifetime, there's a lot of real life applications of fractions. And so this is really an area that the researchers paid attention to for the elementary math curriculum, really sort of knowing around, okay, so this is a difficult concept for students to understand. So how are we going to really highlight it in this particular curriculum? So another piece is confidence. And so in this particular 2020 curriculum, there is really an emphasis on what kind of ways can students show their thinking? What kind of tools can they use to show their thinking? And that's sort of different and similar across the different strands in the new curriculum. And of course, coding. Coding is now one of the, I guess you could say, it's a strand, but it's situated in the algebra strand. And this is very exciting because really we are adapting to 21st century learning skills and needs that students are going to have to understand rich coding skills for later in life, and developing skills for how to develop fluency with technology. Another new strand is financial literacy, which is fantastic. So now, I mean, previously it was just really about counting money and looking at money and coins, but now it's moved to include financial management and also civic and consumer awareness. So this is really exciting. And I would also say too, social emotional learning skills and mathematical processes. Mathematical processes have been in the curriculum for a while, since 2005, and now we're kind of linking them with social emotional learning, which is the awareness of, how do you feel? What are you thinking? How are you self-regulating when you're learning with mathematics? But mathematical processes, we're going to go, that is really key to really building strong skills as a mathematician. So these are some of the highlighted and key changes that have now arrived in the 2020 curriculum. So let's get to number facts. So what you're going to notice throughout our presentation is that we're creating a context for our mathematics thinking. The reason for this is that mathematics is in its purest form, pretty much everywhere in the world. It's really everywhere in our everyday living, and our ways that we make meaning of how we understand how the world works. So in this particular slide, we've got a question for everyone. And so the question is this: what is the best way to count the bicycle wheels? So take a minute, have a look at this picture, and in the chat, if you feel comfortable, respond. How are you counting these wheels? Really, that's what we're asking. Fantastic. I see some people already.
If you could respond to everyone and not just Lisa, the host.
Oh, yes, that would be fantastic. Thank you for that reminder. Oh, thank you so much.
And don't worry, if you have a different idea of how to count, please do share. Oh, I like it.
Oh, thanks, Edward. I got what you meant, by the way. Oh, by twos. Thank you, Lisa. This is excellent. Okay. Any other thoughts? Methuselah, what are you thinking? Are you thinking a particular way that you like to count them?
Yeah, I was thinking about, like, it's funny because my mine went to both those ideas. Like, the idea is, let me count the number of bikes there are, and then I know there's 2 wheels per bike, and like kind of do that multiplicative thinking kind of way. What were you thinking?
Absolutely. So I started to think about how I could group that. I was seeing like 4 and 4. And so maybe if I could do a bigger count. So in that 8 and 8, and I was trying to think of doubling in a way, which kind of speaks to the counting by twos. It kind of speaks to like maybe how I could reach at counting the total, like counting that total faster and then multiplying it. So interestingly, I kind of, thought about
Combined.
it. Yeah, combined weight. So,
Yeah.
so you can see like we already have 4 or 5 ways now. And maybe some of the things that I have said have really prompted you to think something differently. So this is what's really great about when we kind of ask each other math questions, something as simple as this. Or I know, like I have 2 children of my own. When they were really little, I would get them to kind of help me with laundry and count the things that I, socks or
socks.
put them in pairs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Find those random socks, odd pair.
Let's pair them. Yeah.
Exactly. And to this day, even my son loves folding them and saying, "Look, here's my pair. This is how I folded them." So these are really kind of, embedded ways to talk about math, which is really it's natural and it's so important. So this is great that everybody sort of had different ideas of how to count this. So I always like to, I'm going to move to the next slide. So I always like to, you have that anecdotal evidence, right, Mafusa, where you're like, okay, so we just do this naturally. But in fact, math researchers and math education researchers, they talk about this too. So what I'm going to do is show you a video, and we're going to hear from Kathy Fosno, and she's a well-known mathematics education researcher and teacher. And so she's going to explain to us why mathematics or mental math is so important. So I'm just going to come out of our presentation and gear it up for us. And I'm just going to do a quick check to make sure that you can hear it. Mafusa, can you let me know, please?
Yeah.
I mentioned substituting an equivalent expression for another. That's a critical component in doing arithmetic. Here's a problem. 38 plus 19. Let's write the 19 under the 38. And the first step in the algorithm now is 8 plus 9, right? That's 17. To do that first step, you had to sacrifice a sense of the number as a whole, because your first step demanded you to treat the units first. And if you're at 17, you now have no sense of where you are going to land. But if instead you think of it as 38 and you keep it whole, and you just decompose the 19, or maybe you can think about the 19 as 20 minus 1, You just take a jump of 20, you know exactly where you are. You've not lost sense of the numbers at all. So this sense of magnitude and numbers in terms of number relations stays intact. Many children will often say, let me get myself to the benchmark first. What's near 38? Oh, 2. If I use 2 more, I'm at 40, and that's a nearby benchmark. Right now I only need 10 more and then 7 more and I'm done. These are also powerful mental arithmetic strategies. You don't have to write anything down. Children at very young ages can actually even keep these numbers in their head as they're doing this.
So how we fit in the leftovers, I think we should do the lowest number first, which is 4, which is 456, adding 4, which will be 60, and then after adding the 8, which will be 468, and then adding the 7, which will be 475 to when you fit in all of the leftovers.
These kinds of mental arithmetic strategies are far more powerful and are more helpful in the world that children are growing up in than needing to get out pencil and paper. These strategies are all based on a deep understanding of number and operation. And this is what we're trying to develop in children. This is the hallmark of numeracy.
So as you heard her say, this is, I guess what I really want to draw your attention to is what Kathy Fosno is saying about having a sense of number and operation. So when we start out doing those counting, the socks, counting the different things that are around us, something as simple as that, now we have to think about how is that gonna, how would we add them together? How do we subtract? Those are all the operations. How do we multiply? What are the things that we are going to have to divide? And so that's where it starts to get formalized. However, the children have to make that connection between what they intuitively already know and what we are teaching them a little bit more formally. And so I often get asked, why do we have to teach the strategy if the student already knows the algorithm? And really, this is why. Students will lose their sense of understanding of the relationship between two numbers, such as 38 and 19, if we're only taught one way to think about it. So when we're really thinking about what does it mean, the fundamentals of math, what does that mean? It really means that mental math promotes fluency with numbers. It promotes flexibility. Means you can kind of think of numbers and we can think of, 25, where would I see that? Oh, I know that as a number because I count 25 cents. So they're making all of these connections to where they see numbers to see how they're used and how they put them together. And so this is why mental math is so important in that regard. So I always like to, we always start with the expectations and what are in our curriculum as teachers. So when I'm looking at that, you'll see here that this is what's listed in the math curriculum from grades 1 to 8. And they're very now explicit about what is a math fact and what is mental math and how are we going to be using that. So now, if you can see, or I guess you could say, notice how I have highlighted recall and demonstrate. And I want to point out that children can memorize facts, but what you'll notice with the mental math expectations, as listed, it points out in below, underneath, and you'll see how I've highlighted it as well, is this idea of using strategies and demonstrating those strategies. So the strategies we use, so we talked about that. Oh, I counted by 2. I thought about grouping it first with the bicycles, that question. When we think about that opening question, I asked how best we could add the bicycles, not how many wheels or what's the answer. And it's a subtle difference because we want students to notice, and you will want your children to notice, what are we thinking about? And we were all thinking about different things when we responded in the chat ourselves. So the question helps us activate the strategy we use. And so that's one thing when you're talking math with your own children, think about how they're explaining their thoughts. And if you have a more open-ended question, you'll get an insight even more in terms of how they're making a roadmap of calculating and putting together numbers and taking them apart. So this to me is really exciting that we're paying so much attention to this as teachers and as a province, because it's really so foundational. Mental math is very foundational. And as Kathy Fosno stated, it really helps them for a lifelong, I guess, trajectory of seeing themselves as mathematicians. So again, I like to include not just my thoughts, Mafuz and I like to bring in different narratives as well. So here in this video, we'll have UC Berkeley professor Dor Abrahamson discuss how to increase students' understanding of math. So let's take a listen.
X and Y and numbers and doing all these calculations. However, mathematics is about making sense of the world. And unless we can sort of ground all of this scribbling in something concrete that we really get, we'll never understand what we're doing. Like adding. You know what adding is? Take 1 and 1 and whoo, you have 2. Or if you think about multiplication, it's like you take, what is 5 times 3? 3 and 3 and 3 and 3. You have a sense of what this thing is, but beyond that, do people have a sense? Or are they only scribbling around and getting answers, but not really understanding what these things are? My job is to help kids connect between what their brain already knows to do and the method they are being taught, so that they can do much more than just scribble little numbers and symbols, so that they can really get it, so they can go out into the world and identify those phenomena, see those patterns, use math in their lives to solve the problems that they care about. Any researcher of math education can tell you that the big crisis starts when fractions enter the scene. Up to then, it's just been counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Suddenly you get all these weird kind of relationships where half is bigger than a third, is bigger than a quarter, is bigger than a fifth, even though the numbers are going up.
So I just wanted to show that clip because next we are going to talk about fractions. And if you noticed,
X and Y and numbers
when
and
I
doing all
was,
these
one second, when I was at the beginning, when I was talking about the changes, this is one of the things that researchers noticed as well, that in research and trends that in Ontario education or Ontario mathematics education, this was something to really pay attention to. And I'm just going to do a tech check to make sure. I feel like my computer is a bit slow. So I don't know if people can hear.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there was a bit of a lag, but I think, so I turned off my camera for that reason, folks, just in case it makes it a little smoother. So far, if you could type in the chat if we're all okay. Or if you want to use a reaction and do thumbs up or thumbs down, depending on what your situation, if you could let us know.
Yeah, just so you know, my screen, my chat's kind of gone a little funny.
Same here. That's why I can't. Yeah, I'm trying to log into another device just in case. It's like,
excellent. I know, me too. I'm just wondering if I need to do that as well.
This is the reality of our situation, folks.
It is. It is.
It's all good.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. I guess maybe in the chat, I can't see if maybe somebody could type that they can hear me and that things are okay on their end. And Mafuza, I know you can, I think, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Or if somebody'd like to unmute and let me know as well too, that would be helpful.
All good from what I can hear.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so I will continue. So as the professor stated, fractions becomes of a tricky thing. And now, so as I mentioned before, I have 2 children, one is 7, one is 9. And so these are the things that I'm kind of watching out for. So one night, my daughter came to me, she said, oh, mommy, you know, I want to try fractions question. I said, oh, great. This is sort of music to my ears. That's sort of this whole Sometimes she loves it when we talk homework, and sometimes she doesn't. So I was happy that she wanted to talk about this. So let's look at these two fractions, 5/6 and 1/2. Think about it, and you can pop in the chat. Which one is bigger, and how do you know?
Ooh, fractions.
I know, it's fun. So I think I'm getting some responses, but I can't really see.
Do you know what? I'll read them out to you. So
Super, thank you.
we have 5/6 from Lopa, and then
Excellent.
Edward said 5/6 is bigger than 1/2, which equals 3/6. And then Denise, I apologize if I'm saying anyone's name wrong. Please forgive me. 5/6. So we have a lot of 5/6.
Fantastic. And how have people put anything about how they know? Or what is able to
So Edward
yeah.
did some analysis. He said 5/6 is bigger because 1/2 is equal to 3/6.
Aha. So he's able to create an equivalent fraction so that he could compare that unit fraction. It's a very, very, very that's the key that unlocks fractions. Do you know that unit fractions? And in this case, the unit fraction would be 1/6. That 6 is giving us that hint of that whole. And so this is difficult for students, and understandably so, because it's now we're talking about numbers. Before, numbers might have been in relationship because we had to put them together, but now we've got a number that's in relationship with another number. So that gets to be very tricky. So this is, hopefully everybody can see, this is what I did with my daughter. So what you'll see is I said, okay, I gave her kind of these questions, and I was intentional about the questions that I gave her. And so I said, okay, so I want you to show me how. And so she said, okay, well, I need a piece of paper, and we got a piece of paper out, and she started to draw how she knew which one was bigger. And so I noticed that she was using circles, and I noticed that she was also getting it wrong. Her comparisons of her numbers of her, which one was bigger? Was it the 5/6 or the 1/2? Which one was bigger? She was getting it wrong. So I said to her, I noticed that you're using these pie pictures or these pie models to tell me how you're understanding which one's bigger and which one's smaller. And so I said to her, what if I gave you a line? I gave you a line, and I gave you a line. So this is what's over here on the right side of the screen. I said, this is so you can see how we had the one on the bottom. You can see that's the 1/4, or the unit of 1/4, and we're comparing it to units of 1/6. So this is how we then started to create a comparison of these two fractions, because you can see how a fraction.
I think you meant 1/2.
Oh,
sorry, you said
thank
1/4. Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, sorry. In I gave the question of 1/2 and 5/6.
Yeah.
But if you see in the picture, it was big.
Can you share the next slide then?
Oh, can you not see my next slide?
No.
Okay.
We don't see the image. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see it now? One second. Nothing. I don't think
we still don't see it.
No.
Thank you. Let me just. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. 1 second. Or maybe, well, I'm not sure now. I'm going to see. I've got a new share. Let's see. Okay. Let me see if this is. No, I feel like.
Yeah, we see now. We see it, but it's not in present mode. So just a heads up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for letting me know. Okay, so here we go. Can you see it now?
Yes. Are you able to make it bigger? Like go in present mode?
Oh, it didn't go in present mode.
No.
Okay, let me try one more time. Oh, darn. I don't think it came up again, did it?
No, it didn't. Do you mind refreshing? Yeah, I was gonna say, try hitting refresh.
Yes, and on my screen, I've lost like the ability to see my Zoom bar. Like I can kind of see it, but it's sort of, it doesn't look too happy. Okay, now I've stopped sharing.
Okay.
So let me see if I can, am I still here?
You are on screen, but you're not sharing anymore.
Okay, no, 1 second. Trying to,
Don't worry, Zoom is acting glitchy on me as well because apparently my camera is on, but you can't see me.
okay, all right.
It's a good morning, everyone.
Sorry, folks. Yeah, thanks for your patience. I wonder, do you think it's the connectivity? Maybe
Possibly
I'm just going to switch over to a
different device.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that. So I don't know if you're able to share your screen, Hafusa.
Let me try it on the Chromebook. Give me 1 sec.
No problem. And that way.
Like that, let's see. And then I just need to go to slide 11, I believe.
Yes, I'm just going to change my internet. So okay. 1 second. Okay, is this better? So Mafusa, I'm gonna think I'm gonna have to go out and then come back in.
Okay.
Okay, so excuse me, everybody, I'll be right back. Oh,
Lisa, you're the host, so just make me host before you close because it'll shut down the whole meeting.
oh, okay, so then I won't do that. I thought I was the co-host, I guess, but
no, you're the host now again. Yeah, so just make me host. Just we don't.
So the only problem is
you can't see your toolbar, can you?
Yeah, but that's okay. So we won't do that then. So Mafusa, if you can share your screen, that would be super helpful.
Yep.
And
role reversal. That's okay. So now your pictures are up of your daughter's drawing. Go ahead.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So what you'll see on the right is how we used a line model or a linear model to be able to see what the relationship between 1/4 and in this picture 5/6. So I gave you another question to discuss, but that was really our intention there. And I asked her and I said, you know, which one do you like better? And she said, you know, Mommy, I like the one that you showed. And I said, well, why? And she just said, because I could see it better. I could compare it better. So these are little nuances that we wanted to bring into the conversation together, because this is how, when we hear what our children are thinking, when we ask them what they're thinking, this really helps them build their confidence in math, because they're able to articulate it, and then we get to talk back and forth to clarify it. And that's really how we build confidence with our students. That's how I build confidence with my students, but also with my daughter too, and saying, I really value what you're thinking. It's actually really important that you tell me, so that we can kind of clarify it together, clear it up together, so that you have more understanding. And this is really at the heart of really building our skills as mathematicians. So we'll go on to the next slide. We have another activity.
Ooh, transition. Okay, folks. So we have a little activity for you to participate in. So you're going to need the following materials: a piece of paper. It could be scrap paper, so don't worry, and a writing utensil, pen, pencil, crayon, whatever you have handy. So if it's like a broken crayon, by all means, grab it. All right, so is everybody set? Does everybody have everything that they need? And this is gonna be hard because the chat is glitchy on the one that I'm talking through. So Are you able to see?
I can't see anything, so I'm going to just invite our guests to unmute and let us know how
Yeah.
if they're ready. Please and thank you.
Ready.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so here are the instructions. You're gonna, right now you can't see the image, but you're gonna closely look at the image, and then I'm gonna hide it again, and then you're gonna draw what you remember. How long am I supposed to show them? Lisa, I don't remember.
It will maybe do like enter. So the slide will kind of
Okay.
cover over. So
Okay.
give them
Okay.
maybe 3 seconds or so.
All right. Are you all ready? Here we go. All right. So take a moment and draw what you saw. And then if you're comfortable, if you want to share your work on camera, you are welcome to do so. Ooh. Yay, whoa, nice. I see some diagrams popping up. Do you see them, Lisa?
No, but I'm imagining that it's amazing.
I know. Technology is great when it works. Thank you, folks, for sharing. All right, so now how does this relate to the math curriculum? Like, so we got you to do this activity and you're probably thinking, okay, they made me draw something. So our students are going to learn about measurement and geography to help them describe and explore the world around them. What we want our students to be able to do is make connections between measurement and geometry in order to describe objects and their relationship to the space around them. Think about even packing for a trip. We
Yeah,
need that
totally.
skill. I want you to make connections to, like, I want us to remember we can make connections to everyday life. And that's what we want our students to realize, that what they're learning in school can actually relate to their real life. So they also recognize how spatial sense informs graphic design, planning of structures. So if you have any budding architects, they need to know this. Or if you have budding coders, you have kids who are already interested and want to be maybe graphic design, or they want to create the next amazing game out there. So they also need to learn how to estimate measurements. I know I need that whenever I go to buy something. It's like, is that long enough? Is that how large the window was? But also to use measurement tools accurately. So we also need to better understand different measurement units that are commonly referenced in the digital world today, but also, I'm not going to say only digital world, because I know I'm going to give you some examples. So like, think about like large units, like a terabyte, if we're talking about the digital world, or a gigabyte, and understand the difference between them, but also small measuring units such as nanoseconds. So what's, if it's a nanosecond, what does it mean in comparison to a regular second, or what we consider a regular second? So yeah, there's a lot that we can bring in from our everyday lived experiences to our students or to your children.
And I think with that activity too is sort of a fun game. It's easy enough to do with your students or with your children.
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly.
get that teacher hat mode.
Yeah.
And you can even do 3D. So if you have Lego, or you have other kind of objects that you can play with, just some structures, as Mafusa was saying, and sort of having students sort of observe something quickly, or having your children observe something quickly and drawing it, really speaks to all those things that Mafusa was speaking about. So can you estimate? How are they estimating what they see and what's on what they're translating to the paper as well? And how does that connect to geometry? And how are they able to say all the geometric languages as well? So this is just really wonderful.
And there's you can also spin it on its head, where they create a drawing and they have to describe it maybe to you, and see if they can describe it accurately enough for you to actually get the same image. That's always fun to do when you have them draw it out and try to explain it. So communicate it. Can they communicate those lengths, or use the language to express appropriately their drawing?
And now I'm just envisioning standing in lines for certain things and making sure I also have paper and pencil or something on hand in my little toolkit called otherwise known as my purse.
Purse, yeah.
And all of a sudden you're able to kind of put these things out and give your children so that they can have something to do, and little games of that nature. So this is something that's easy to take on the road and help them get focused about what they're thinking about mathematically.
Absolutely. I know I jumped the screen and I've switched. So we wanted to share with you what resources that you have access to, and your child will have access to them as well as you through what we call the virtual library. And I'm just going to do a quick demo for you to see where you would find them. So we're going to hop out of the presentation. It'll just not be full screen mode. Oh, it actually turned off. We're just going to go to the regular TDSB website, so www.tdsb.1.ca. So this is what we call our external website. This is what you have access to. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, because I was thinking what's the easiest way to get there, Lisa, when I was trying to figure this out. So yeah,
no, go ahead. I was going to say, I usually just type into Google TDSB virtual library, and I feel like that comes up quickly.
That's true. So it depends on whether you've searched it a lot and whether it's one of those top results. So just in case, you can find it at the bottom here. So TDSB virtual library.
We there?
Yep, we're there.
Okay, good.
So now you can see there are a bunch of icons. What we want to go to is the green box. There's 4 icons or 4 tiles, I'm going to call them, in the center of your screen. If you see the read, watch, learn, we're going to click on that. There are other resources for you here, by the way, but we're just going to focus on this one. All right. Now I'm going to let it load. Yep. Have you loaded? Yes, you have. We're going to scroll all the way down. You'll notice there are green headers, read, learn, K-12. We want to go to the make do. There we go. And here on the make do page, you'll find a lot of our tools and resources for math that you can use to support your child with math from K-12, depending on where your child is in their educational journey. So this is where you would find those tools. So hopefully now you know how to get to them. And how are we doing?
We're good. I'm just being mindful of our time.
I know, that's why I'm like, okay, let me get back to the presentation.
No worries. And but you have some really important pieces to talk about.
Yes, so we're going to go on next as soon as this loads up. All right, so let's take a look at computational thinking and coding. I'm just realizing I'm going to need to unmute this because now it's on the Chromebook. All right. My apologies. I'll unmute it in a second. Give me 1 second. So computational encoding, so here you'll see on the screen that I have, it's actually an ISTE standard, which the TDSB is adopting. The idea of we want our students to be computational thinkers. So we want students to be able to develop and employ strategies in terms of understanding and problem solving in ways that leverage the power of a technological method to develop and test solutions. So as you saw with the question that Lisa posed to us with the bicycles, there were multiple ways we could solve it. So now with computational thinking, what we're going to do then is develop these methods of solving whatever the question is, but then have a way of testing these solutions out. So we can have multiple situations or solutions, but we can also use technology, leverage the technology to solve them. But I'm thinking, so just full disclosure, I'm a science and math educator from the secondary panel. So when I was thinking about it for this presentation, I kind of brought in my science lens, and I thought, well, if I were a parent and I didn't do coding, and I don't know coding, but how can I support my child in terms of computational thinking and those skills? How can I help develop them at home? And there are 2 very specific skills that we can support our students to learn at home. And those are which are used in coding and computer science. The skill of like decomposing a problem and sequencing the steps appropriately so that we can break the task apart, but then also put the sequence that we need to follow in the appropriate sequence, um, so that we get a solution. Now, I'm going to show a short portion of this video. This is something similar to what we do in the science classroom, but it's just to give you an example of how you can encourage conversation at home. And it's quite amusing. You'll have access to our slide deck from the main site. So if you want to see the whole video, you'll have the opportunity to. So just let me know if you can hear. Can we hear Lisa?
Step 1.
I can hear, yes.
2 pieces of bread out. Got 'em. Get a butter knife and get some PB. Take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
No, Dad, with the peanut butter.
I'm just doing what it says. It says take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
Hold on.
Get some jelly, rub it on the other half of the bread.
No, Dad, open the jelly.
It doesn't say to do that. Put the breads together on top of each other. Take a big bite. This doesn't taste like a peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Oh, sorry. All right. Sorry, folks. We're doing the best part we can with tech. So hopefully you could see this as an example of something like this parent did at home. The idea of getting them to do a task that they normally do, like making a PBJ sandwich. It could be something else that you normally do in your home. So here it was an example where we weren't using anything like in terms of math. It's not necessarily, thank you. It's not necessarily we're incorporating numbers at that stage, but we're still getting them to practice skills that they will use in our as they go through their math journey.
Yes, and I think too, it's that connection to mathematical processes as well. So I love how you're bringing in science because it's so linked. Like it absolutely is linked.
Yeah.
And hence STEAM, the M is math. So I think that's great.
So I'm just going to show this. We don't have very much time because I got a time check. We only have 15 minutes and we want to value your time because you probably have another session. This is just an example of what we call unplugged coding, where the challenge here, we were going to get you to try it out. It's basically we want BitBot. He wants to explore the Earth, basically using these arrows. We wanted you to help us move this robot from where their initial position is to Earth or the beach without going, like you can't go through a beach ball. And so you could do a similar activity at home, just scraps of paper, images. It could even be with the toys that they already have, and just create arrows and get them to move. How do they move their toy or truck or whatever you have to get to a specific position? So that is an example of unplugged coding where you're getting them to think, break it down into steps and sequences. Now here we wanted to just show you, we've taken a look as a district and tried to unpack what this coding, like the coding strand in the curriculum would look like and what's happening in the different age levels or the grade levels. So we start off with sequencing or sequential. We want to take a look at the order of which things happen. And then by grade 2, we're adding the idea of concurrence or concurrent. There's something that's happening at the same time in addition to sequence and order. Grade 3, another level of complexity, repeating. So something is happening more than once at the same time with the correct steps. So I'm just, as you can see, we've done it for grades 1 to 8. We don't have time to go through it all. So just to give you a snapshot of how we've been breaking it down so that we understand, and it's provided in our presentation, so you can also have a better understanding of what's happening where in the curriculum, and hopefully in simplified language. All right, so we wanted to show you Scratch because you've probably had your child using it or have heard of it. So when they start getting into actual coding using the computer, they might be using Scratch or Scratch Junior, depending on which grade your child is in and the teacher's introducing it. It's what Scratch is considered a high-level block-based coding, where it's very visual and it's web-based. And it's for children who are from ages 8 to 16. It's an educational tool, and they can actually program their own interactive stories, games, and animations. So do we have time for that 1 minute, 30-second video?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's.
All right, so we'll try this, and I got mute. Come on.
As soon as I shared my first project, I got instant feedback, and I was like, okay, I want to continue with this. I remember my first project was a super simple animation. I'm still actually really proud of my first project. It opened my eyes to the different possibilities that coding can present. So I've been drawing basically since preschool when I learned how to hold a crayon. I think making art with Scratch is different because I can collaborate with other people and make something interactive that other people can use. There was a song that said, happy, happy birthday. I put Scratch in there. It just became an instant hit on the site and inspired someone to make their own songs and remixes.
Anyone can do anything with my project, and sometimes it's really funny how they change things at the end. It just goes to show like how much you can actually do with all the things you have from Scratch.
When you're looking at other people's projects, you're engaging on such a different level, which really encourages this kind of mindset of seeing yourself and each other as makers of things and not just consumers.
I never thought that I could do like the coding part. Like I thought like I was grown up and hire someone to code it for me, but then I was like, hey, I can actually do this myself. It gets more complex, but once you know the basics, you can add on to your knowledge and move at your own pace.
If you like solving problems, if you like drawing, if you like making music, if you're into anything, Scratch is for you.
All right, folks, so sorry for the echoiness of the video. So as I know, this is a video from Scratch. So the reason why I wanted to include it in our presentation is that you could see the students building their codes using these blocks. And this is what we mean by block coding. So this is the first step in their journey. They don't necessarily have to know any specific language. They will progress to learning language. And that's what the second resource down here is. It actually, I'll just quickly click so that you can see. It's again something that you will have access to as a parent, and it goes to Python. If your child is at that level where they want to move away from block coding and they actually want to learn Python, which is a coding language, that they can do so. And there are actual videos and tutorials at this site where they can continue their journey in terms of learning. Sorry, I just need to move this so I can see what's happening. Not doing it. My apologies, folks. Give me 1 sec. Okay. So at that site from the University of Waterloo, we are able to.
My dog, can you hear my dog?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. They are able to now graduate from the block coding to actual coding in the Python language, and which Python is being used to create interactive object-oriented program. It's an object-oriented programming language, but it's used in web development, artificial intelligence. So there is extension for this beyond like their educational math realm. So it's not something that will go to waste. I just realized there is a link that we're going to try to share with you, but I can do that after when I hand it over to Lisa. I'm going to share in the chat the parent site for Scratch, should you want to kind of explore a little more of Scratch and understand the community guidelines and privacy policies. And now the next one we want to go to, come on.
Mathematical modeling.
There we go, the modeling, so that you can see. So we've taken an example of an activity that we do with students in Scratch, and we want you to take a look and share with us in the chat. Actually, no, on mic, I realize chat's not working for Lisa and myself. What do you notice? So if you want to come off mic and tell us what you notice. So just a heads up, it's saying make a square.
Yeah, so you have the code written there.
Mm-hmm. And you have the block code too.
And the block code as well too. Yes,
yeah.
That's so true.
So you can see the difference. So the students can change back and forth between block code and turn on the text to see if they were actually typing out the code, what it would look like. So it facilitates that journey into learning a coding language.
So I will wait a quick sec for people to unmute. They want to share, and if not, that's okay.
So then I'm just going to toss out the next question is, what do you wonder? Okay. Teacher wait time.
That's okay. I think there's so many things that you could wonder and notice as well. And so maybe some of, that pen, what's the pen signifying?
Yeah.
And is that pen, like where would I find that in the written script? And what I really loved about the video you showed was I heard the students saying, I am the creator of the program. And I think this is powerful, mathematical thinking and learning in action. Yes.
All right.
So are we on to the next slide, Ms. Lisa?
We are. So okay, it's mathematical modeling.
Okay, great. So the next little bit, we're just going to wrap up very shortly. And so just to let you know, the other two pieces that we're going to speak to is mathematical modeling and financial literacy. So in this image, you will see a big graph with sort of all the processes. But let's go to the next slide on 21. Mathematical modeling is now in the algebra strand, but essentially really what it is really rich problem solving. So we can ask you can talk with your children about sort of like, okay, we've got to go on a picnic, or we have to think about, we're planning ahead for a party, or we have to think about, how are we going to orchestrate, different activities that we might be doing, or different kinds of scheduling we need to consider as a family. And so you can just see that the question in mathematical modeling, it's really sort of, it's an open-ended question that makes us think about the different things or the different parameters we have to consider when we are trying to solve a problem. And so it's sort of like a very detailed, lots of questions. And so in this particular question, when we say like a picnic is being planned, how many cookies should be taken to the picnic? Well, now we have to kind of think about, is there a smallest number of cookies we would need? Does it make sense that the pattern keeps growing? What if a group of people, most of them are allergic to nuts? How might our model change? So what kind of cookie should we bring? And what if we get new data? So, what if we have to plan for a picnic that's outdoors, or if we buy all these cookies and now it's raining, what are we gonna do with all the cookies? How are we gonna solve that problem? So the thing with mathematical modeling, again, which is such a great thing that we went through the coding now and then coming to the mathematical modeling, is that you can see that the new curriculum is really emphasizing, where do we use math? How do we use it? And then as parents, it's everywhere. So how are we going to take that up? And so if we go to financial literacy now, this is another practical application of mathematics in action. And so what we did previously, as I said, with financial literacy was thinking about just counting money, like just as a value. Well, now we're looking further at what is really that value all about? We can notice that we have a Vertical 10 bill that is a really beautiful bill that was vetted by Bank of Canada to be designed and created with the community. And so Viola Desmond is on it. And she is a Black businesswoman that went through human rights violations against her. And then she came through, and now we're honoring her in this way, a prominent Black businesswoman. And so it's a beautiful story that we can tell about, like, how are we valuing money? How are we valuing our society? And how do we value business? So this is really great because, that's where it starts in the primary years. And then when grade 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 happen, we're looking at financial management. So what's interest? Like, what really is this thing, interest? It's what happens when I purchase credit cards or when I use a credit card and make purchases on credit cards, right? But then even more so, it's civic and consumer awareness. So, financial implications of, say, businesses and their effects on the environment. Or, is this really fair? Like, to get a loan, who gets loans faster than others? Is it on the lines of gender, or is it on the lines of, race or communities, etc.? So these are all the things that are interesting to note about financial literacy. So teachers are really considering all of the lived experiences of students in their learning community, which means that we're really working to support an inclusive learning environment. And so the other piece of this is just to show the next slide. In our front matter, when you do look at it, you can go on the website. There's clear direction on how we consider the values of mathematics and embedding them in the role of human rights, equity, and inclusive education in mathematics. So I'll leave that. That will be there in the slides as well for you to have a look at. But as we wrap up, you can really make a difference and support your child's learning by making math a regular part of your day. So we hope that in our presentation today, that really came through, that you were able to really see that, okay, I can just talk about counting particular things, or even just bringing up, we've got to plan something together as a family, or we have to think about this problem is arising. So how would that be mathematical? And really just leaning into talking about it with your children. And even with the coding, love the peanut butter challenge. It's like the best video. Thank you, Mafusa, for presenting that to us. Because it's even in something as simple as, how do you butter bread? How do you pour a glass of water? How do you turn on the tap? All these things. How does that all happen? It's mathematical. So we have a bit.ly for you somewhere with all of these resources. And so we really pulled, and I want to make sure that you're also aware of TVO Math5. That's free tutoring. The hours are there. It's all self-explanatory. So when you click on that link, grade 6 to 12. So free tutoring tailored to you with OCT. Math Power, M-Power, is a video game, math-related, STEM-related actually too, for primary grades. I believe it's 1 to 6 or K to 6, grade kindergarten to grade 6. So you as a parent can sign up and you can see how your child is doing. That's run with TVO. I wanted to also say the Toronto Public Library has access to free tutoring too. So if you are looking to have your child get help on particular things, there is this new program that they have that just sort of activates kind of like a call center linking into a tutor. So all you need to have is a library card, and that can get started. You can get started there. So we thought it was really important to include that resource. And then, of course, the government also has the resource listed there. It's a PDF of even more detailed implementations, detailed ways to inspire your child to learn and love math. So they have, links and ideas all listed in there, and we shared that for you as well.
I'm just getting the link in the chat. Since this on the Chromebook, I can actually access the chat. My apologies, folks. I just saw your messages. Zoom on the computer that we're both of our computers, that's our main computer for this presentation. Zoom's not working for us, so I wasn't able to. I tried to mute, I know. I tried to cover my mic. Sorry for the echoey uniqueness of it.
Yeah, we really appreciate your patience. I think because it would have been, and because I was a host, I thought it was a co-host, but because I was a host, it kind of threw things for a little bit of a loop. But thank you for everybody's patience there.
So
yeah, so
please
we have
grab I was going to say, please grab the link in the chat.
Link in the chat and questions. We're going to take questions now. If you can, I'm thankful. Thanks. I'm so glad you can see Mafusa now. You can.
So let's check. I don't see anything, but I think there was one in the chat previously that I can't get to anymore. So I think it was Denise, if you wanted to unmute and ask the question, or
I was actually just typing you saying that the videos actually helped me to understand it. It wasn't so I could just say in front of all the parents that I was struggling, but it wasn't that I was struggling with how to do her math. It was struggling on how to explain it the way that she's supposed to explain it now, because I'm 50, so I learned it.
We learned it very differently.
Yeah, very, very differently. But the videos really helped, and knowing that I have resources really helps. And this video or this workshop was empowering. So thank you.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we really think of it as a conversation. I will say that I get in trouble with my 9-year-olds. So I've really been working hard on even just being in this field, how do I parent in this way? So it's sort of like embedding it in the everyday and having fun playing games. Games is a wonderful, wonderful way to spark conversation too. Takes that pressure off as well. So I appreciate I don't feel so alone anymore, Denise.
Yes. my husband was convinced, since he's, really good at math, that he'd have no problem with it. And then he's like, how do you explain this? It's just this way. And
exactly.
Yeah. So this is helpful to have those conversations and just to, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of the audience, if that's all right? So we were thinking that we possibly a monthly thing, right, Lisa? Or like at least the one idea I wanted to see if there was traction for. If around December we did like a family math game night, would any of you be interested?
That's a great question.
I have a yes, sure. Ooh, this is exciting, because then we know if we have interest, if we will work on it. Maybe not during the summer. No, we're thinking around
maybe
Christmas
December,
time. Yeah,
or like December, like some point in December, like at the beginning. I'm not sure. Maybe November. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe in the new year. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see. But it just in general, and then maybe in a format where I don't know how we could figure out a format, but something to do. Like probably a Zoom.
Yeah, I see. I like this. Chelsea is saying December or January would be great when we're all stuck indoors. Yeah, that's what we're thinking. Something that we could help facilitate.
Good point.
We have December is great. We have traction, Lisa.
Yeah, I think so. Get the word out.
Yeah. So we will connect with PIAC since they are our connection to all of you.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Yeah. We'll linger a little bit more for any more questions that people might have. So please do unmute at this point.
Yes.
Be very helpful for both of us. So thank you.
Oh, we have a comment that my son loves math problems, so I know he would love math game night. Oh,
yay. Okay,
yay.
good. And I don't know if Catherine's still on the call. I meant to bring this up a bit sooner, but Catherine is from an organization that is looking at financial literacy and economic literacy, I suppose, in a way, or understanding economics. So she had some resources that she was able to share. So, or her, I'm not sure. If she's on the call, she maybe wants to. We can maybe share through us to everyone else, Catherine, but if you wanted to unmute and maybe share some of your, what the organization, yeah, share with us a little bit more about the organization, that would be helpful.
I don't see her in the participants list.
There's an iPhone. Is there an iPhone?
No, not anymore.
Okay, all right. So we'll feed that back and share in that way. Because I think there's some other associations that are really being supportive and with parents to be able to help with different ways of knowing and understanding math, in particular financial literacy.
Absolutely.
So let me see if I can even get back in here.
I know.
I'm like, oh, now I can go on my phone perhaps, but.
So we realized there's possibly another session that you might be signed up for. So if you have another session and you have to go and you don't have any questions, thank you so much for bearing with us and our technical issues. We apologize, but we thank you for coming on this journey with us and participating and joining in on the conversation, because we're here to support you and your families through this educational journey. So thank you. And thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And thank you, Lisa, as well, too, for this opportunity. This is excellent. So